Thank you, everyone. I'm so very pleased to be speaking with you, even if it is remotely. I was very honored to receive your request. I am, however, very sorry that I'm not in person to meet with you because I was looking forward to it so much. I love nothing more than going out and speaking with the people in our community that care about the same thing that I do, our beach and our wildlife. And of course, for me, the critically endangered sea turtle species that we work with. I'm going to just only have a few minutes to talk to you today, so I'm going to try to pack a lot of information, very generalized, into a small amount of time. I'll tell you about you. Excuse me, I'll tell you about me, and then I will talk a little bit about the nesting and the stranding work we do and how significant it is for the state of Texas and globally in some instances for some of these species. Here we go. Uh, so I am Dr. Donna Shaver. I am Chief of the Division of Sea Turtle Science and Recovery at Padre Isle National Seashore. And I'm also the sea turtle nesting and stranding coordinator for Texas. I have worked at Padre Isle National Seashore since 1980 when I first started there as an SCA, Student Conservation Association intern, and decided then, after hearing the plight of the critically endangered Kemp's Ridley turtle, that I wanted to dedicate my career to try to help save this critically endangered species that was almost lost in a blink of an eye, one human generation. I have spent my whole career working my way from volunteer up through to be division chief and getting my master's degree and my PhD along the way. I've authored more than and delivered more than 400 presentations, authored more than 400 publications. Combined, the number exceeds 400. Those publications can be viewed on many of them open source on ResearchGate. So if you want to really get into technical details, please refer to those publications. I've received 55 awards and honors. I do about 15 media interviews a year now, but used to do about 50 proposals that I have written has raised all of the funding for our sea turtle division of science and recovery at the National Seashore. And even before that, our sea turtle work while I was at the USGS for 10 years. It has raised all of that funding, and that which includes about $14 million in grants. And when I returned to the Park Service, was tasked to help lead the effort, and my proposal generated our $1.4 million annual base increase to help sustain this work into the future because it is annual recurring efforts. And the regional director who recruited me for 5 years to come back to the National Park Service had stated that indeed we needed this and worked with me to get it. And I'm very grateful we did, as line item dedicated to the sea turtles in the Green Books appropriations that were received to park, which constitutes about 25% of the base budget that I brought in through these base competitive proposals. I got my master's degree at A&M in Kingsville, which was Texas A&I at the time, and have been honored by them as a distinguished alumni and invited to be one of their uh, speakers at their leadership series. And I was very honored to participate in those events. And I feel like it's a critical obligation I've got to give back to this community and the young people that are still homing in on their future career path, to talk to them about the work that I do and what others do at the national park, at Padre Isle National Seashore, and inspire them to follow their dreams, keep studying hard so they can achieve their full potential. Also, I started in 1980, and one of the men in the Park Service said, "Oh, Donna, all the women in the Park Service taking jobs away from the breadwinners of the family." Well, it was a different day and time, and it was certainly hurtful at the time because I was the breadwinner of my family. But I say this because I was a pioneering woman in field biology and was one of the 75 women that was interviewed for this book, Women in Field Biology. And my work has been published, and I've been talked about in various publications, from scientific books all the way down to newspaper articles, magazine articles, etc. And what has happened over time, as I've gone from the youngest person working at the park and youngest working with these efforts to now being the oldest working with efforts, is that I have learned and taken upon myself. I've got this other obligation for teaching the youth so others can pick up the torch, hopefully, and work on after someday I retire the sand shoes for the beach and the turtle work there. We need to have people that will continue this work because endangered species recovery efforts are the long term. You're not one and done. You need to have persistence. And so there has to be multiple generations that participate in these efforts to recover these species. So this education of youth, and we have become like a training hospital to young sea turtle biologists coming through our program. About 40 seasonals per year. Well, that helps to be an economic driver for the local community. It's not a large employer, but it is an employer. And another economic driver is our hatching releases that bring in people from all over the world to come and view these little hatchlings being released. So when some of the people ask, well, why do you do the work you do, and what does that turtle give back? In a lot of ways, it does give back economically. But moreover than that, I do this work because man almost decimated the species, and I felt we had an obligation to try to recover it. And this is, from a humanity standpoint, one of God's creatures. It's been around for, it's up to be millions of years. And so we want to help give it another chance to be able to survive into the future generations. Park Service's fundamental leading doctrine is to preserve and protect for future generations. And that's exactly what we are doing with this program. Our effort is a three-pronged program of conservation, research, and public education. All are intertwined and feed into each other and are critical to help inform each other. We have about 100 volunteers from the local community that participate each year, and we're so incredibly grateful for their help. As I said, our hatchling releases tremendous public education efforts and goodwill events for the community. And the Potterdal National Seashore has become iconic with the Kemp's Ridley iconic for the seashore. And even for this whole coastal community, it is the species that stands out that people, when you go to other locales, will say, oh, the Kemp's Ridley turtle, which is our state sea turtle of Texas. And I'm so pleased that over time, through the years of work, the community has embraced our efforts and taken on and had further educational commemorations of the Kemp's Ridley, like in the sculpture in Kent Uber Park, the Kemp's Ridley painted on the water tower on the gateway into North Padre Island, etc. Because it does take the community with the public education, the conservation, and the research all intertwined to help restore these species for the long term. Our work is cooperative with many partners in the U.S. and Mexico, and that is vital to our success. It's long term, and it has received widespread community involvement and support, which we're so grateful for. Now, the public education has to be done every year. It's not one and done. This public education is necessary to achieve this balance between sea turtle conservation and public access to our beaches and our waters. Colleagues from Florida, when there's an issue that rises up, they'll say, oh, well, just rope it off. Oh, just keep people out. That's not what we do in Texas. We invite our community in, and we have learned to work together to try to do our conservation efforts, beach cleanups, and etc. We invite our people to our beaches. We don't lock them out. We don't have a lot of fenced off areas like in, say, California. So for these public educations to achieve this balance, we have the hatching releases, as I said. We have releases of yearling cold stun turtles, or a little bit older cold stun turtles. And here you can see it's in the winter. People got their jackets on for those cold stun turtles being released into the Gulf so that they don't repatriate back into those bays where they get cold stunned. We don't not repatriate immediately where they get cold stunned again, but hopefully eventually over the course of the summer they will. Here's Seashore Sandy, our mascot, greeting the public at one of these releases. And the public loves to see this mascot. I designed it to look like a cartoon Kemp's Ridley with a coloration that's correct and big smiley face and the ranger hat. So again, very well accepted. And our yearling release, our releases of the cold stun turtles are just as popular as our hatching releases. If we're able to hold them and give enough advance warning for the public to know that they're actually going to occur, and then do a countdown of when that will be. Research, again, intertwined with the conservation and the public education. Many topics, I can't go into them all, but I will say we've been leaders for the research because there has not been much funding for sea turtle work in Texas over the decades. And we've been the leaders for the stranding network and the nesting work because the park started that for the Texas coast. So my lab, with being either senior authors or junior authors, myself and a staff, very capable staff of professionals working with me, who I'm so proud of, Jennifer Shelby Walker, Hillary Franson, Martha Villalba, Cynthia Rubio, etc., have been co-authors on these papers. And we've done a variety of topics and helped it vastly increase the knowledge of sea turtles in Texas, about 75% of the peer-reviewed publications. And this information has been integrated right away into management to help with recovery efforts. Life cycle of the sea turtle really fast. Sea turtle is thought to go back to the beach where it's born to lay its eggs. The female will dig a hole, lay the eggs, cover, and return to the sea. She's not going to come back and check on those eggs. She taps down the sand. The hatchlings will emerge after about 50 days. They'll vigorously crawl down the beach, enter the surf, swim away, and be planktonic with the currents for about the first year to 2 years of life, and then settle into the near shore areas, which are called developmental habitats, or inshore areas, which may change seasonally and certainly will change throughout developmental stages of the turtle. Then when the turtles reach maturity, they go back to the area of the beach where they were born and repeat the cycle, laying their own eggs. Now, this is not perfect. Sometimes turtles stray from this, but that is what you would expect for a species that's been around for millions of years, much longer than the duration of some of these beach areas that come and go over geological time. In 1986, my supervisor tasked me with starting the patrol to look for the nesting turtles and the nests on North Padre Island. Try to see if we had turtles coming back from their heads, an experimental project that we conducted where we received eggs from Mexico to try to help form a secondary nesting colony here. Turtles from the wild stock, protect the nesting turtles so they could go on to lay many more clutches of eggs in their lifetime, and protect the eggs because they're the hope for the next generation. Chem-Sterling nesting in Texas is the very end of March through mid-July, and we patrol very diligently on North Padre Island and Mustang Island, back and forth, and South Padre Island, back and forth all day long, crisscrossing, trying to cross the path with the hopes of intercepting one of these turtles so that we can see it, document it for tags, and protect her while she's on the beach. We patrol with various types of vehicles, and our program, because of our experience and being the Texas coordinator for the Stranding and Salvage Network and the Texas Nesting Coordinator, we provide training and leadership and some supplies for the programs. We provide training to the other programs to help spread the efforts in the state so that everybody is working in concert using the same methods and the same data collection procedures. And nests are found because of patrols and because of sightings by others, be it either beach workers, people working on the beach in the process of their day of beach maintenance, law enforcement, lifeguard, etc., or just visitors on the beach. So we have, like I said, a training program for other partners working up and down the coast, and public education for the public to tell them what to do, the do's and don'ts related to nesting. So with our patrols, and if we find a nest that's called into us, we rush to the site. We want to locate the nesting turtles and nest to protect them and to document them. The patrols are the primary mitigation measure that's used to protect the nesting turtles. and the eggs, while still allowing that beach access as required under the Texas Open Beaches Act, which is part of the Texas Constitution. For nest detection and management are patterned after procedures successfully used in Mexico for decades in accordance with the Kemp's Ridley Recovery Plan, our recovery permits, and our animal health and welfare procedures. We maintain the longest long-term continuous database on the nesting turtles and the nests. And this is related to our first, you start with the documentation of them, and that over time you end up with this database. It's invaluable because the data collection efforts in Mexico have been very spotty, just on and off as time allowed, as money allowed. And it just has not been this continuous effort to bring in this continuous source of information that is needed for management. We want to protect the eggs from a variety of threats that are on the beach, and the hatchlings from a variety of threats on the beach. Beach driving and maintenance and renourishment, campfires, climate change, development, etc. A big one is nuisance coastal flooding, which is 90 days per year and increasing exponentially, which would wash over the eggs and kill the developing embryos. Another one is climate change, increasing the temperature of the sand, which could make it too hot and lethal. Another one is poaching, and then of course entanglement in marine debris, and then in the sargassum seaweed. All the nests found are relocated for protected care. These eggs we find in Texas are precious. Most of our nests are the most critically endangered sea turtle species in the world, the Kemp's Ridley. Eggs from nests found on the northern end of the national seashore northward in Texas are incubated in our incubation facility at Padre Isle National Seashore. Eggs from nests found at the southern end of the national seashore are incubated in a corral, a large screen enclosure that's located at the southern end of the park. And eggs from nests found on South Padre Island and Boca Chica Beach are incubated in a corral located on South Padre Island. Eggs are very carefully cared for in these holding facilities, either incubation facility or the corrals. We get about 85% emergent success. The protected hatchlings, the protected incubation allows the protected release of hatchlings. This is very critical because there would be loss of hatchlings as eggs are incubating, as well as the hatchlings dredge down the beach and enter the surf. We, for educational purposes, and because we've got to release the hatchlings anyway, we attempt to invite the public to as many public releases as we can, as we're authorized to conduct. In recent years, it's been decreased to about 5 a year. And we advertise those by our hatchling hotline and on our Facebook page, Padre Isle National Seashore, and also the Texas Sea Turtle Collaborative page, and that's the name of it. You're welcome to get on those to find out information about when our releases might be held. And you can learn about the releases held on South Padre Island by Sea Turtle Link contacting this number for Sea Turtle Link. The largest nesting day is documented in Texas. So we're starting to see these days of the synchronous emergences called arabatas. And this is very important because these are typical of the species. And we want to see for nesting to be able to be a recovered species, you got to have a population that's self-sustaining. And right now, these are not in Texas. They're a long string of pearls. You don't have enough where you could just walk away at this point and say, okay, we've got it. We've recovered the species. We're not there, but we're on our way to doing better. The largest days, we have 4 days where we documented more than 40 nests in one day. We had 19 days where we have documented more than 20 days. And one day where, 20 nests in one day. Yeah. In 19 days with 20, more than 20 nests in one day. So those days are really remarkable and are exciting developments that are indicative of us seeing arabata behavior formed. And the largest nesting day was so exciting, 46 nests, including 28 at the National Seashore. What a day. So what are the numbers doing and where are these nests being found in Texas? So we work to train all of our partners because we all work together. These turtles are not 100% faithful. So it's important that we're working together to try to do, get to these same goals, which we're all working on. The concentrated nests are found on North Padre Island and South Padre Island and Boca Chica Beach. You can see the two in the left graph, the two furthest bars to the right, North Padre Island, South Padre Island, Boca Chica Beach, largest numbers. And then the years. When I first started here in 1980, there'd be one nest found about every 3 or 4 years. And I'm so very grateful to say that thanks to this work, the numbers of nests have been increasing with a lot of ups and downs. Very, very thrilled to say that Padre Island National Seashore is now the most important nesting beach in the U.S. for Kemp's Ridley, the world's most endangered sea turtle species. We are the Archie Carr National Wildlife Refuge of the Western Gulf. Critically important for our green turtle nesting in the Texas coast, where we get the lion's share of that in Texas. And we are this epicenter of nesting for Kemp's Ridley in the U.S. So we've got this very important nesting habitat for green turtles and for Kemp's Ridleys. Our work really needs to continue to be able to get to these numbers where the population can be self-sustaining for this predator swamping that's required. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Some managers are anxious to get to the finish line sooner than when we're really going to be able to get there. So hopefully people will remind them and we can remind our folks that strongly enough, convincingly enough that, hey, we've been so proud of this work for more than 40 years. And we're obligated to these animals. Some of them we caused to come here to nest. And when they come up to nest on what was planned to be this safeguard for the species, this safe area. And to help ensure that they are safe when they're here. We have to look for them. So a program needs to occur. And I'm hopeful that we could keep one going from, what we have started and brought in all the money to conduct. Stranding Network is another big effort that we take on in Texas, where we document the turtles stranded or washed ashore, live or dead, on the Texas beaches. For many years, the Kemp's Ridley and the loggerhead turtles were the most dominant species in the stranding records. As back when we had a lot of problems with shrimp nets catching the turtles. Then turtle excluder devices became mandatory. That was mitigated for. But then we had this prevalence of green turtles that started showing up, and with these big spikes, and it's overtaken the other species as the dominant species stranding on the Texas coast. We depict it in green here on this graph. And you see that these largest years are, and the largest component is the blue bar, and that's the years of cold stunning, where we had large numbers of turtles that were found cold stunned, washed ashore, incapacitated, in a weakened condition. Sent to rehab. Usually it's a very quick process to get a cold stun turtle in Texas through rehab. Just a quick time in rehab, swim around the tank, warming the body temperature of the animal, and then release to an area where they won't hopefully immediately repatriate themselves back to the bay.